What's going on, guys? This is Dr. Vic. You're listening to another episode here on the Mindful Experiment. Excited to have you on. This is an exciting time of the year. I love the holidays, the fall weather, slowing down a little bit, just to embrace the year. And it's like putting things together to closing the year down with a nice jump start into the new year. And it's a time that I enjoy to spend with family, following my Italian traditions, and so much more. Especially this year, I have my daughter, where we celebrate her first Thanksgiving, her first Christmas, and creating our own. My wife and I creating our own traditions of what we want to take. Part of what she had as traditions growing up, plus what I had as traditions growing up, and how do we blend that world together to create our own and what we liked and what we didn't, and then how to maybe adding new things into the mix. So it's been a great time, and it's a great process to go through so much, because this year for some has been absolutely amazing. And for some, it's been extremely stressful. For some, you're worried about the new year. But I want to share with you this episode, and I've talked about this in one of my financial courses I do. I talk about this concept, and I bring this up. I've talked about this in various ways each year around this time. But I think this is very critical for you as the individual, especially from a mindset perspective, and just really understanding these things, because it's really layered in what I'll be sharing here when it comes to the process of, and you may have said this, like every year it's the same thing, or every year I end up doing the same thing, or every year, or every time I do something, this is what ends up showing up, right? Or you maybe it's financially, because this is one really pulls some of those emotional cords, and it's looking at your life and like you want to create something new, but you're always thinking the same old is going to keep showing up, right? And that same old that keeps showing up is what we call baggage. It's the baggage that you carry. Now, the thing about baggage, that term became popular from what I remember in relationships, right? You're carrying it from one relationship to the next. The baggage, you just keep carrying it. That's why every relationship's the same experience. No matter if it's a new person, it's the same experience. Well, we do this in life in so many ways. We let our past actually sabotage or spoil our future. And we do this in every fabric of our life. So if you grew up with scarcity, hardships financially, when you go to start a business, you don't know this, but deep down, you're carrying a baggage of that, unless you become aware of it and let go of it. Drop the friggin' baggage. So, because what ends up happening is, this is a great time to have this conversation. We're going into a new year. Most people carry the baggage from the last year into the new year. You have to shift mind and let go and really get into a perspective of seeing each day as a new day. Cliche, I know, but it is. You don't know what's going to happen today. You don't know what's going to show up. You don't know how the day is going to process. You have absolutely no 100% certainty. Every day is like flipping the page to an empty page in the book of your life. Okay? You have a brand new page. How do you want to write that? What are the experiences you want to have? You have the power and the opportunity to make a change right there at that moment that will transform your life. Now, it's not going to happen instantaneously. We live in the realm of physical realm, so the space and time has to happen for that to take course, to become neurologically embedded in us or wired in us, to get into that subconscious mind. But here's a fact, and I've been asked this many times on podcasts, when I talk about limiting beliefs, they'll be like, what's the number one limiting belief you see when it comes to working with clients? Is, well, it's self-sabotage, but usually that's because of low self-worth. So low self-worth is usually the biggest one I see. And self-sabotage, what it means is that we all do this. I didn't know the things that I've done for myself, that I self-sabotaged every fabric of my life. When I started looking at limiting beliefs, it was amazing how it would show up. Like I would just be like, wow, I thought that person was like that, or wow, I thought that person was like my upbringing, or wow, I thought that person was like this. Or that person said something that made me remind myself of somebody in the past that fired a trigger. Instead of they're not trying to be that way. You see, because the accumulation of our experiences, it dictates in our mind that we think this is how life is, right? And a lot of times when it comes to relationship stuff, you got to look at mom and dad first. A lot of that stuff's there. That's some heavy stuff if you really want to get into it. If you really want to have a fulfilling relationship and heal and be free and to have a prosperous relationship, you got to go through that work. And it's one of those things that, because we carry the baggage, right? We carry the baggage. Every experience is going to be the same experience. Every experience is going to be the same experience. And you may not say this consciously, but subconsciously you are. Because remember, your brain is always looking for pain or pleasure. If there was something painful, it's going to store it as a memory, and then it's going to try to prevent you from that pain. That's why you don't go, if you burned yourself with a fire, or you remember a pan that was hot, didn't know it was hot, you touch it, oh my goodness, and you burned your hand. You're not going to go back again. You see a pan there that's on a fire, and you're not going to go, let me go do that again. Your brain already says, nope, don't do that. That's painful. We avoid that. Okay. And the same thing happens in our life. This is how it gets conditioned. Same thing if it comes to a business. How many times do people struggle in life, maybe failed business, whatever it may be, and then they let that dictate their life? Or maybe they went for their dreams one time, it didn't work out, and they let that dictate their life, right? Painful experience, hardwired in the brain. Now the brain's going to try to prevent you from doing that as much as possible. It's going to think that every situation is like that. That's a life living in fear. That's a life living in scarcity. That's a life carrying your baggage. That every time you do something, you think it's going to be that way. I know this firsthand. I went through this. And you go through this process to know that it's not going to be. Today's going to be a new day, right? But how do we get to that point? Okay. How do we let go of the baggage? The easy way is just like, think about holding baggage. You let it go, right? That's easy. That's a simple way. It's so easy to say that. It really is true, though. It is that way. But the problem is the reason why it's hard for us to do that is because your brain has been conditioned that this is a painful situation. Every time I do this, this is what shows up. And you have to understand that maybe it might, but there's a chance it may not either. Which one you want to give energy to? And you have to trust that you're going to eventually see a different outcome. You may not see it in the beginning, but it's going to happen because what you're doing is, neurologically speaking, right? The brain doesn't cut off synapses or connections on one side and then rewires over here and just says, okay, we cut that off and we're just going to go here. What the brain does, it resides with universal laws and things like that. And that is, it takes a little bit of energy away from one connection and it puts the energy to the new connection. And over time, as you keep repetition and consistency is what creates nerve wiring, right? We rewire our brain, neuroplasticity, and eventually the more repetition and consistency that shows up, the more you're going to start to rewire that into the subconscious. Because when the subconscious gets programmed, what happens is you have to have a continual pattern show up over and over and over and over and over again. And then eventually there comes a point where it's like, hey, the brain's like, okay, I'm tired of trying to be mentally focusing on this. Just go ahead and let's just wire that in. It's automatic now. So I want you to think of it, it's like driving a car. When you take a step back and remember the first time you drove a car. You're like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to focus here. I got to make sure all the mirrors are here. I got to do this. I'm like, and you're driving, you're freaking out. You're in the lane. You're checking the lanes. You're making sure you're in the center. If you're on a turnpike going on an expressway, you're really there, right? 10 years down the road. Now, the way you drive now, you don't have to think about it. You get in the car, quick scan. Here we go. Let's go. Sometimes I'm getting in and I'm modifying the car windows and everything as I'm driving. But you notice that when you start getting used to driving, you can be on a phone while you're driving. You can change the music station while you're driving. You can do other things, have a conversation with someone else when you're driving. That's how you get it wired in the subconscious. Once it's there, you're automatically doing these things. And so I really, really want you to understand this stuff takes a little bit of work. And what I mean by work is just time. That when you make these changes, but letting go of that baggage, then you want to develop a system. Okay, so the system's going to be very simple. It's a constant reminder to reframe or recheck where you're coming from. So if you had a fear, let's say you went into an investment and you really lost some money. Maybe it was all your savings, right? In your mind, you're going to go, savings is bad. No good. We stay away from investing. Savings is bad. Investing is bad, right? And we're going to try to say, I'm not going to do that. And it gets hardwired in and you hold on to the emotions. You keep thinking about it. You get disgusted with it because a lot of times the events of what happened to us doesn't matter. It's what we think about them and the projections of what we put on ourselves or the viewpoints we put on ourselves and the stories we share in that moment and the feelings that show up is what really puts us in a hole. So when you start to look at investments, then you're like, okay, this is going to be my new way of investing. What can I learn from that? And then how can I get better, right? How can I learn to not prevent that, let that happen again? And then you go through the process and you take some time. You may make an investment, you may take a loss, but it may not be as bad. But as you start to, you'll get some wins. And then that's where you start to build confidence. Then you start to figure, okay, I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to go there. It's a new day. It's a new version. Yesterday was yesterday, right? And the way I like to think of this, I love baseball. I played baseball for 25 years. It's one thing that I really enjoy. And as a, if you see a pitcher or somebody who is in sports, you have to kind of not carry the baggage or it's going to mess with you. And I wish someone taught me this at an early age. I would have been way better of a baseball player than what I was. Because if I got into a slump, it's always mental for me. It's not physically, it's mental. And what would happen is like, oh, I struck out. Son of a gun. I don't strike out. I usually fall. I rarely strike out, but then all of a sudden, let's say I struck out three times in a game, and I'd be like, man, what the heck's going on? With this and that. And I start getting in my head. Then I go up to the plate before I'm going to play. I'm like, I'm not going to strike out. I'm not going to strike out. Why am I saying that? It was painful to strike out those 3 times, and now I'm carrying baggage from the last game to do that. I've done it the same way the other way. Or in a game, I remember I'll never forget one game I hit 3 home runs, most home runs I ever hit in the game, and I'm not a home run guy. And my size showed I should be a home run guy, but it was one of those things where I was like, man, 3 home runs. I finally I have done that. And it was in a semi-pro game. It was awesome. And I think it was all luck. One of them was luck. It hit the top of the fence and bounced over. I was like, okay, I'll take that. But long story short, the next game I took the baggage from there, thinking I would have the same success. And I did. I went one for 4 that next game with a single. And it was an infield single. So I was like, man. But, so we do that with our mind. And so it hurts us in both ways. I've done this through spiritual work, going through spiritual ceremonies and so forth, or going through a gong experience, listening to going into a gong bath, listening to that music and just getting immersed in it for over an hour. And I'll have a wonderful experience. And then I'm thinking the next time it's going to be the same thing. So that's sabotaging the experience and not allowing for what should show up or what can show up. So we do this in both ways. We pattern. So you got to let go of that. But the one thing we can do then is build a system, state what you want to have, and then build the system. The system is simple. What is a thing that can remind you to keep you in check? Now, I've used this in so many different ways. I call it the bracelet thing. And what it is you put a bracelet on, a rubber band on. And every time you go back to old thinking patterns, or you think something's going to be like what you had in the past, whether it's business, relationships, life, health, you name it, take the rubber band, switch it on the other side. Simple as that, right? For some people, snapping the rubber band is a little better. For me, I needed the snap. Some people don't. Check it out because it's painful, right? Creating a little pain. It's not bad. You're not hurting yourself. It's just a little snap. It's like a little sting to the skin. But what happens is you're creating a pain signal and associating that to that thought of what your old pattern was. And so eventually you can also use that as a process. You don't have to, though, because some people get annoyed just changing a bracelet. Oh, for a while, you're going to get tired of changing that bracelet back and forth or the rubber band. When you continue to do that, you're going to get bothered, but you're going to get tired of it. And there's going to come a point where you're like, okay, I'm tired of doing this. So now I'm going to have to make a change. So you're going to be more conscious of what you're saying to yourself, how you're seeing the future, how you're seeing each day, and so much more. So a little something you could take into the new year, but really take some time to really focus on what is it that you want to create for yourself? What are the things that you want to really see? But at the same token, seeing every day as a new day. Every day is another day for opportunity. Every day is a blessing. Every day I'm grateful for whatever shows up. I know that all I can do is just set my intention, and then all I can focus on is my reaction to all things. That's it. When you come from that place, it is a massive game changer for you. And you start to allow to play in this dance called life, and you can learn from the dance, and you don't let it get to you as much. And it allows you to keep your energy centered, allow you to keep focused on where you want to go and what you want to create for yourself. And you create massive shifts in your life, especially in business, in money, in your career, your health. I mean, every aspect of life, because this is universal principles. And so have fun with this process. Really get excited about that and realize that you may say, I don't do this. If you keep seeing a pattern showing up in your life, you do it. It's the easiest way to uncover it. And sometimes the pattern may not be exactly like that, but you'll catch yourself. Even in relationships, you'll be like, oh, my mom or my dad used to talk that way to me. And you get really upset about it. And you don't realize that you're getting triggered, which is also allowing you to let go of something, right? To heal from something. That's why I love triggers, as much as it's not fun in the process. But the trigger opens the door for me that I know I have to do some healing, or I have to become aware of something or some aspect. And so dive deep with this, have fun with this. I want to wish you an amazing new year. I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to the Mindful Experiment, whether it's your first episode or your 440, 30 something episode. I want to thank you for being a part of this community and this tribe of what we've done in this last year and what we're going to be doing in next year and so forth. We're looking to expand out and doing more and really leveling up as much as we can. So we'll be asking you what you'll be looking forward to in the next year. There's a link in the show notes. Please go ahead and click on that. Please fill that out. It's going to help us. We're looking to see what it is that you want. We have a big following. We're ranked number one, top percent, 1% and globally out of all podcasts. It's 3 million now. So we appreciate the support, but we want to serve and help you more. So what is it that we can do? What topics? What are things you have going on? What are things that you are looking for? I will be the one sharing those episodes. And if it's outside my expertise, I will go ahead and find somebody who is an expert in that to interview them. So we're here to help grow in 2023. I believe 2023 is going to be an absolutely amazing year, regardless of what people are saying may come up and so forth. Because at the end of the day, you control your life. You control how you react to it. And when you understand that principle, you take self-responsibility, you control what's going to show up for you. So I appreciate you. Many blessings. Much love from me. Thank you. And I'll talk to you guys in the new year.